Hi, everybody. There we go. All right. Hi, everybody. My name is Tantra Maat. The phenomenon of existence I live in is awaken your being. Uh, I asked to come on early today because I wanted, not early, in the beginning today, because I'm going to have to go off. Uh, my daughter has strep throat and may have to go to the doctor's. So I don't want to suddenly disappear from view. It's going to be easier for me to, good morning, everyone on chat. It's going to be easier for me to uh, open us up. Good morning, Kristen. Good morning, Lisa. And all of the rest of you that haven't put your names in the chat, please do. Um, so good morning, Teresa. So in this conversation today, I wanted to set the field. So I've been bouncing around like a ball between mud and ice and sharp pricklies for as long as a lot of us have. And I um, just got the message from my daughter to come get her. So I will do my spiel. But I want to start with setting the field of the day by create a world means create a world. And one of the kind of struggles in creating a world is to reduce the effect on the existing world within you. And our ability to not get snagged while being snagged is an art. And one now that a lot of us are needing to learn by necessity and also by relevance. So in 2014, I started gathering community, a collective. If you've read any of Barbara Marx Hubbard's work, and I was one of the people who started Evolve with Teresa and Marshall and three other guides with her. Her faith in a small, coherent community could influence the consciousness of an entire world if we based our relationship with life on coherence. If you think about it very simply, in coherence, there are tenets that you embrace and struggle with. And one of them is intimacy, affinity, vulnerability, and transparency. So in the community, in the field of Tantra Maat, there's a rigor to not polarize, to stay in relationship with others that differ in their opinions from us. And that takes, again, it takes an art, and probably one that human beings haven't had the ability to develop in a very long time. It is now a necessity and now relevant. So in our WhatsApp thread, for instance, in our private Tapa Talk group that anyone can join, um, we have worked to keep our position out of the conversations and at the same time be able to share our experience without fear of bias. So when I started the collective in 2014, I knew I'm a psychic. I've known about this time for almost 50 years. And I knew that if I had a collective and was in alliance with other collectives that were paying attention to what connects us to life and has us exist as whole, regardless of what is occurring in the outer world. And if we really got the thirst and the craving for our inner world, then we would be okay. Not feel okay, by the way, but we would be okay because the reflection of our inner world and the outer world, our nature of being would be our goal, not trying to handle. An example would be walking out in a tornado and trying to stop a house from being destroyed. And I knew for the last 50 years that at some point everything would start collapsing. And so the opportunity is to be with ourselves in a way that we, where we're standing, can build a world. You know, I started years and years ago. Deb was in the first group we were part of. This is 50 years ago, 45 years ago. And we were just a small little collective. And then it built in Washington, D.C., and then it built in Ohio. And now it's building virtually. And community is community, not our community, the field of Tantra Maat. Community is community, common unity. And it doesn't mean common position. You have to have diversity in a community. You have to have everybody present to what they're present to, open up into what is theirs to open up into, and have what is theirs to have. So I wrote something that I wanted to read to you, and that I wrote to all of us. All of us are trying to find out what is ours to be now, because the world came to a stopping point and is starting a new recursion of being now. And whether we are going to get lost in trying to handle things that we're not skilled enough to handle, or whether we're going to mature what we know life to be, where we're standing, we shall see, basically. Whether we realize it or not, many guts are in the empathy of creation, and that'll be discussed today. Can we move out of survival or be in the presence of gut-wrenching survival needs? Fear of futures is a gut-wrenching survival need, and live our unique and essential aspect of creation. You know, part of me is being a delivery system. And I was once a channel when I began. When I began the deepest part of my work, I was a trans channel for three beings. And one of the things rising in me that is challenging, I could also say terrifying, is I'm a delivery system. That's what a psychic is. That's what a seer is. That's what a prophetess is. We're a delivery system. And it's connected to what we have lost touch with, creation. It's the voice of creation. It's not the voice of opinion. So it's very frightening to me when this occurs for me, not the voice, because it lets me organize for how to be in life and what to organize yet next for human beings. But to verbally say it, prophets and seers aren't listened to anymore. And so there's a wrestling inside of me to not have the beauty of creation fall on deaf ears. It does no good. It does no good. And the truth is, when it gets strong enough in me, it comes out. It overrides my personality system, and the voice of the channel, which connects us to a channel that connects us to life and has us exist as whole, comes out. And how do I know that? Know that because I've been maturing that since I was born. So where I am, it is. And in the work of the Magician of Self, we are working on that personality structure of where I am, that is. And it's not easy because we've been told that our value is in the outer world, and our ability to handle circumstance is our value. But there are a lot of unhandleable circumstances right now, and it is ours to discover. So thank all of you watching. I really, again, would really love it if you put your name in the chat. If you don't want to, that's fine. It's just great to see all of you on the line. What I want to let you know is I'm going to go get my daughter. And so chat won't be available uh, for questions, and I apologize for that.
Actually,
But
Tantra, I have the chat open so they can.
okay, Janice will take over then from me. Thanks, honey. And so please, any questions, any comments, you feed us in our conversation, even if you don't have a question, uh, as well as we seek to feed you. That's what community is. So the creator world is based on two dynamics. One is community, and I'll let Janice share what that is. And the other one is collaboration, which is what we are. It's what we are together. We're collaborators in our desire, not our skill sets, not that we're skilled, but to create a world. And on that note, I will pull myself off screen. I will turn it over to Janice, and I will go take care of my beloved child. Have a great day, everyone. Over to you, Janice.
So, because of all the training I've had over the years in ecology, I tend to always start there in my explanation. So, an ecological community is made up of all the living things in an area and the way they interact with each other and sort of the roles they have with each other. So, it's the job of the plants to take sunlight and turn it into carbohydrates that can then be consumed by the deer that then gets consumed by the wolf. Um, so community is not just the individuals, but it's also the roles that they play for each other. And to me, that's very much what Tantra was speaking to this morning, that when we come together, we're each in our unique and essential design, and that then contributes to how we be for each other and who we be for each other. And community is going to get really critical in the near future. And so it's it's essential for you to know where your community is, whether it's on the ground, whether it's virtually, and many of you may have a mix of communities, which is wonderful, but it's where you can go to share your unique and essential design, but it's also where you can go to be fed as others share and are in their unique and essential design. So that's what feels important for me to share around community this morning. Deb or
Yeah,
Elizabeth?
for me, community is an ecosystem.
Mhm.
It doesn't matter whether it's local or broad. Um, the the difference is in the human, well, that's not one difference in the human realm is it's more like, well, I'm a baker and I'm a teacher and uh I'm good at this. And up until now, we've focused on our roles as identifying who we are. In my world, in my perception, everything got upended at COVID. When COVID happened, all of our little streams of um, uh, where we belonged in the ecosystem got disrupted, mostly because it was driven by outside forces. Our social structure, our how we're supposed to be. Um, you know, a man could say, when people say, "Well, who are you?" They'd say, "Well, I'm a farmer, or I'm a fireman, or I'm whatever their role was." I don't think I've ever heard someone say, "Well, who are you?" And uh, that they could say, "Well, I'm a great father." It had to be identification by doing. And that got upended, that got truncated really So now we're figuring out, and it's kind of like nothing went back to normal. And there's just continued to be like recursions of having to identify differently, not just with other people, but with, you know, like for me, I love to garden. So for me, it's with my plants in the soil as a rough example, you know? And sense of self is coming from a different place now, which we're calling empathic response. And, can read that. I can read the definitions and all when you're ready, or you all can just talk them.
I'm good. I don't have too much more to say other than putting my own design in here on community. For me, when COVID happened, I felt like we could go back to basics and just be, and I was thrilled. Um, because I was also very grateful to have this global online community that we're with. And so it was just kind of business as usual, continuing to collaborate and be about creating worlds, you know? I mean, it was great all the while, being with each other online. I mean, it was really a great lifeline. Uh, and and we could get back to nature, because we could go out and walk and just be outside as well. And so, you know, responding to what Janice said about community and being with the ecosystems was a godsend, and it was a new lesson for those of us who live here in cities like I do. Um, Learning to get back out into nature again and be in relationship and community with nature uh, has now become a staple. Like having salt and pepper in your cupboard. So over to you, Deb.
I, I want to, that comment about the city kind of pinged me. I'm not a city folk. I'm just not. But a lot of people are. So while like Liz is describing getting back out in nature and how that added to her sense of self and her experience of capacity, for some people, it's what the city has. The hustle, the bustle, the skylines, the lights, or whatever it is that drew them to the city, unless that's just what, that's just what always was for them, and that's something they're exploring. Is this where I belong? So I just felt I needed to throw that in because in my experience, so many people, when you're talking about finding yourself or adding to yourself, we talk about nature, nature, nature. I do think it's essential, even in a city, but it's not. I just wanted to add that there's a lot of people fed by city, by different environments. That's all I wanted to add this minute. So, Janice, I would like to read the definitions of empathy so people are hearing where we're coming from. Is there anything you want to uh, say or whatever before we go there?
Just sharing a quick comment in the chat of one of our participants here sharing that as a stay-at-home mom with side gigs, she had often felt sort of a struggle to respond to this whole, who am I? What do I do? I remember a friend of mine she's a pretty high-powered prosecuting attorney, and then thanks to fertility treatments, wound up with triplets. And her husband had to go on an unaccompanied tour for the Navy when the triplets were toddlers. So she, that became her full-time job. And she was in Washington, D.C. at the time, which tends to be very much this, this power. It's all about what you do. And so, yes, I think that a big part of what is shifting and what we'll be presencing in the conversation is that who you be is going to be taking a step in front of what you do. And I think our conversations in the future, in the future communities that we build, are going to revolve around who we be rather than what we do. So over to you, Deb.
The cool thing about that, I imagine, is you're telling the story. And I've had times when I was I worked from home and that was just considered, stay-at-home mom kind of. It wasn't uh considered a really important life path, even though raising children to be the people who seed the future is really, really important. But what I'm hearing that's relevant to this conversation is as a high-powered attorney, that person was granted lots of importance and status and so forth. And then the sudden shift to mom of triplets, which is like, oh my goodness, I can hardly imagine. That piece of her that would be saying, but I'm important. That's what's cool is the social infusion of importance for the role of attorney would have may have still left her with, wait, I'm important. I'm important. And to have to really um struggle against the social definitions and where the source of importance could be, I consider that to be empathic response. I consider that to be developing uh, a, a what's the word that I want? Faculty, a component of, somebody help me with the words. Uh, uh,
Say a
uh,
little more, Deb, and then maybe I can help fill in.
and can you turn up your volume a little? For me, you're coming across soft, a little soft. Like this, the experience of importance would now have to be coming from an inner nature and a connection to life, to creation that's not sourced from external sources. That's the place we're talking about here that is now an evolutionary driver. That exact thing of sourcing your sense of importance, value, worth, contribution, um, is an ecosystem trait. Am I making sense to you, Janice and Liz? Because if I am to you, I'm hopefully it's an ecosystem trait as valuable. The grass doesn't sit around and wonder if it's valuable or not. It just is. And it's clear. And I don't know, that's pretty exciting to me. It would have been really, really harsh and hard, but it's so centrally important now. Am I making sense to you all?
Yeah, you are. I'm trying to get to it. I mean, I can only go back with my own experience of becoming a parent and being a teacher, and then also having to work, because in order to be able to afford to live here in California, I had to work, and for me, teaching was lifeblood.
Yeah.
It was part of my lifeblood. So I struggled in trying to be both parent and teacher. Um, and I did struggle with that. And the importance, and when I was home, of struggling with, well, what is parent? And being my own community. I didn't have a strong countenance of what that was at that time. That's grown over the years, and the work that we've all been in together, and the work that I've done singly to come to that place. So that it's a huge shift, definitely, having to move community from one to another and see where your design fits in all of it. So I know there's something more there, but I can't get to it. So
Yeah.
go ahead.
Yeah. Well, to the person that courageously put that in the chat, thank you. I really consider um, that a huge contribution to the conversation and to what is like one of my favorite. There's a book called Mutant Message Down Under that's fabulous for lots of reasons. And I remember near the beginning, not too far in, there was a part where the woman, the main character, was talking about a workshop that she was in. I mean, a workshop like they did carving, a wood shop. They made things, and everybody had their job. And they did a lot of beautiful things, and one person sat on a stool in the corner for most of the day. And then when everyone was done, he cleaned up the wood shavings, the tools, whatever, and had them prepped them for the next day, and got paid. It didn't take him all day or very long. So in a way, he was doing nothing all day long. And then a couple hours or however long it took him to do the rest to do the cleanup of the shop once everyone was gone. And someone was complaining about that to her. And she was a social worker and so forth. And she said, no, no, he holds the space for the whole shop. And then he does the cleaning and whatnot. So that person had an understanding, a comprehension, because understanding sounds like mental process, a comprehension beyond mental process with being connected to something that didn't look like the traditional um, measures of importance especially in our Western society, what you do. And it's fascinating to me, always has been, that people don't understand raising children. A lot of the doing this is not glamorous. And it's hard to some days to have a sense of value. But when you think about it from you're setting a whole human being's capacity to live well, be well, and I mean be like being, and I mean be like health, I mean be like capacity in the world, it's the most important job in the world. But there's very little to look at from one point of view that guides you to that importance. It's really, and I don't know, I'm very excited by what you've shared. I think you've hit the nail on the head to that person who contributed that share. So, okay. The way we use the word empathy typically right now means being able to be present to each other's emotions, pretty much. Would you all agree? Kind of. I can sense what you're feeling, or I feel impacted by what you're experiencing emotionally. So, in Tantra's book, You is the Mind of Creation, uh, she delves into it beyond and behind that comprehension of empathy. And let's see. So it wasn't really in English language until the early 1900s. And it came from German meaning feeling in, or yeah, feeling in, German and the Greek. And then some psychology experiments focused on the bodily feeling or movement that produced a sense of merging with an object. And I'm going to add a merging with another human being, animals, nature, the beautiful bright lights of the city. Um, I would assert that astrologers have an experience of merging with the cosmos. So it expanded there. But so according to how we're talking about it and how we're using it, empathy is like a merge point. And then like being present to the very fabric of life itself, the field of creation, if you would. And part of what's busting open is that it's no longer just a phenomenon of how we recognize ourselves. I like this statement. So empathy is becoming recognized, even if it's only like a subconscious tickle, as a phenomenon distinct from how the world is usually held as only a human experience, not who we are when we recognize ourselves as part of the movement of creation. And for me, that kind of phenomenon is what has Native Americans call the trees their relatives, or the river an ancestor. I'm sorry, I'm not indigenous enough yet, but have been very, very taken with what I've read about that they consider the beingness of uh, elements of existence well beyond the human as just as vital and often more so than the human being. And those of us that are westernized are just waking up to that. But it's happening whether we were thinking about it or not. That's part of what this broadcast is about, is that it's happening whether we were thinking about empathy and empathic response or not. And it's not conscious for a lot of people. They don't quite understand. That certainly was my experience, why things didn't fit and work together the way they had. Let's see if I can find the one for empathic response. Sorry. While I'm looking for that, if either of you have things you want to.
This is Tantra. Sorry if you can't see me. I have surgical gloves on and a mask because my daughter doesn't want me to catch strep throat. But I want you all to listen a particular way. I want you to listen in their speaking, the integrity of their struggle to voice that which is not needed to be voiced until now. We're in a new horizon. For some people, it'll just be a repeat of the past. That's what our gut remembers is the past. But the past doesn't predict the future. It does not predict the future. And something in our gut is the empathic response to being in the wave of creation, being in the empathy of creation. We have trusted our gut to survive. Can we now trust our gut to respond? That to what is ours now to be. That's the new awakening. That's the awakening of being that I base all my work on and have, Deb, since Charlie, since the black and white movies. No, not quite that bad. All right, I'm off, you all. Please intend my daughter comes back with me. Okay. I
Yeah.
want to take care of her and she's worried about my health. She's my beloved. Take care, everybody.
And I'm going to add to what Tantra said, that I'm perceiving the very nature of identity is evolving and the very nature of survival. You know, the ability to feed ourselves and express our value into the world in a myriad of ways. That's what got disrupted so dramatically in COVID. Everybody was just busy, 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 doing their thing, all of which was, most of which was, you know, really valid, but the whole constructs changed. And we couldn't rely on our external jobs anymore. A lot of those got seriously interrupted. Or because we were working from home, we discovered well-being. We discovered so many things. So, and I could talk about that for quite a while. So just to recap, empathy is the reflection of creation, the reflection, not reflection on like a mental process, but the reflection of creation in all its forms. Reflection being the glue of existence. So seeing yourself in the mirror, you know it's you, most of us. Seeing the beingness of a tree, or, you know, some of the buildings in New York are so, many cities, they're so artful and, you know, expressions of what was moving through that architect. Empathic response is a fundamental connective response of this reflection within creation. They are distinct and yet connected. So when we say empathic response, we aren't meaning like, I feel sad, so Liz feels my sadness. That's a very, very, very small piece of it. Empathic response is, well, actually recognizing that empathic response is up as a fundamental construct of being now.
This is Tantra again. I'm almost out the door. So I want to be really clear. If you read You as the Mind of Creation, it's based on a creation-based system. How we presently view empathic response is in a survival-based system. Separate yourself from people that are ill. Separate yourself from people that are hurting. Separate yourself from the pain you're picking up on the collective. Well, guess what? We're in a collective event. We ain't going to be able to separate ourselves from anything. So it would be valuable to consider that creation is not our enemy, and that what's moving in our gut is the need to reconnect. And then the solution is to what?
Mm-hmm.
To what? And how we'll know is our gut calms down. And that's not the mental perceptive mind. That's the sentient intelligence. And that's the authenticity of a creation-based empathic response.
And-
You know what I had? I have a big coffee maker that C left, and she's so sick she can't make her own soup. So guess what's in that gigantic coffee maker right now?
Yes, yes.
Yay.
All right, off I go. I really am not going to be back on. Take care.
And learning to befriend and be befriended by creation, most of us only got to the level of circumstance. That creation equals circumstance. That something's going right or something's going bad, or, you know, my brain just failed me again. I can't
Yeah.
think of an example.
Let me respond because
Go.
I'm coming off of a dream I had a few hours ago. Um, there's another statement in here that I'll speak to. That empathy is the glue of existence. I love that. That allows life to be vital in all its expressions of our being here. So my dream was, well, I have to preface it because I saw a hallmarky, soupy, cheesy movie last night about a little town in Vermont, and the townspeople were just wonderful, everything was great. Even if they had issues, they worked together as a collaborative, as a community to work through these issues. And it was very sweet. And then, so this morning, um, my dream taught me, what does empathy look like, really? And it was similar. I was at a community that I was familiar with. I got the sense that I was older. Um, and I could hear people talking, but interestingly, I've never had this happen in a dream where people are talking, but I'm taking it in telepathically. It was like a telepathic kind of um, scene. And I guess I would say something and the people would respond and their eyes were lighting up. And so I was at a house, I was visiting, I was with children. The children were showing me things. Um, and it was all about this just life being vital. That's what it was about. And I could feel the ether of empathy there that people would then respond to as I responded to them. So that's what it was showing me, this dream of life in its vitality, just for the sake of whatever, I don't know, some kid did a presentation on something scientific that I was blown away by. Do I remember it was on a whiteboard? Don't remember. That was the part that was fascinating, that I was not supposed to focus on the exactness of what they were presenting, but what was evoked
Mm.
empathically as a result of their being there. And so that's what it was all about. Even with the animals, there were dogs or something there that, and it was just like I was in love with everything, and all the people, and I knew them. And so I guess I'd come back to visit or something like that. So that to me is like, it was showing me, well, what does that empathic way of being feel like? How does one experience that? And, I came into my office this morning, and I know I've probably spoken about this on CreateAWorld before, but I have these incredible birch trees outside. And I was like, oh my gosh, these birch trees are just showing off their color. And I got the analogy of my black cat laying herself out before me, like, here I am in all my glory. So that to me is empathic response, what we're being called into, that all of a sudden something just lights up our world, uh, in front of us. And that to me is that's life. I mean, that's the beauty of life and what we're being called into. And granted, there are a lot of sad things too that we are responding to as well. I've been in that also. Uh, but just being in this glue of vitality, to me is is part of what we're talking about. I hope I
Mhm.
hope that's understandable.
Mhm.
I'm complete for now.
Yeah, one of the things I was present to as Tantra was talking about empathic response is art as an expression of empathic response. And I watch just in these last few days since the US election how much art has come forward. You know, musicians writing new songs and because they are metabolizing, if you will, what is moving through them and bringing forth the who I am, you know, or where I am, that is who I am in the matter, bringing that forth through their artistic expression. And I am just sitting here hypothesizing that that may very well be why pretty much everybody finds themselves deeply affected by some form of art, whether it's a song that's really, you know, important to them, or a painting, or I do theater, and so, you know, there's theater that really speaks deeply to me, um, because that is empathic response.
There's a there's another Sam. I got so many in the book that are just amazing. That kind of speaks to what you're saying, so I'll try to segue nicely. It says the beauty of our original design is that the reality of creation is designed to recover, restore, and rejuvenate our systemic nature of wholeness. We can never, ever, always stay broken. And I think that's what kind of what people are responding to, out of the brokenness with this um, wholeness. You know, this we say moving to the next greater whole, right? Using those deep feelings of angst, to then create beauty is just incredible, right? And then another one, this one's really speaking to me. Humanity's collective consciousness and empathy is empathically responding everywhere. So that's again what I feel you speaking to, Janice. Responding to the reflection of creation to move you and others into the next greater complexity. And that's how I'm experiencing this, is moving, I mean, it's really complex. Our species will then move beyond its present limitations into its next greater recursion
Mhm.
of wholeness. And that recursion could be today, and then tomorrow, and then something could just like flare up, whatever that is. And whatever that flare is could be good, could be not so great. And then tomorrow, moving into another recursion of of wholeness through something we experience. And so it's very volatile, very intense, but yet also, out of that intensity, look at the beauty that is being born. um, it's it's stunning. So what I'm coming to know, because I've been in a thing really into in I had a couple of dreams, empathic dreams last week and this week about upgrading and dreaming in a way that I've never dreamt before, literally like seeing this transparent hand guiding me. um
Yeah.
and saying, it's okay. You are okay. You are okay. Everything is fine. Everything is good. Um, and at the same time, hearing in these dreams and experiencing needing an upgrade, which is just fascinating. One through symbology of a pendant that I had that I thought I needed to charge, but the person who created the pendant said, no, you need a new one. You need an upgrade. I know, it was fantastic. And then this latest upgrade dream where I literally was plucked out of bed and taken somewhere. And it was more about the journey than the destination of this hand coming. And I could really feel like, okay, yeah, something is definitely upgrading. I am being upgraded, and it may be weird, but it's all good. So yeah, I mean, I don't know if I have any other. I think that's that about that. But I guess my point is, if we open ourselves up to the possibility that we're, and we've spoken about this a lot, we are not alone in our upgrading, and that it's okay to be gut wrenching sad in 1 minute and then just beyond. I mean, the sun's coming on this tree, it's just showing me it's just this incredible golden yellow, in the next minute. This both and of how we're existing right now. If we open ourselves up to the possibility that we are being shown our next recursions, um, and can count on ourselves to nurture those next recursions and our connection with others. um, it's a good thing. I had a man open a door for me at Pete's the other day, and it was just not any door opening. This man was so kind, and it wasn't the standard, I'm a man, you're a woman, I should open the door for you. He was already in the coffee shop and we were coming in, my friend and I. And he had this just brilliant smile on his face. And it was like that was his thing. That made his day, just that small thing, right? How cool is that? I mean, what if we open ourselves up into the possibility that gesture could make our day and make our
Yeah.
life in this recursion? Yeah. So those little moments are what have helped me climb out of. I've always used the 6-foot hole, and there's a ladder in the hole, and when I go down into the hole, that's when I'm really sad or life's really intense. And then each one of those empathic experiences and expressions from someone else, or even my own self looking, out at my tree, whatever, that's one rung up to the next recursion. Okay, next.
Wow, that was remarkable. I'm just steeping in what you said.
And I just want to emphasize, Liz, that you talked about, sort of experiencing the emotional palette. Because there are a lot of life-defeating things happening on the planet right now. There are a lot of life-defeating things that are going to happen in the United States in the foreseeable future. And part of empathy as the glue is that we feel those things. That's what that means. We feel those things, whether they're happening directly to us or directly to someone we love. We do feel those things. And then we may have judgments about what we're feeling,
Mm-hmm.
but we all feel the ripple. It's like, if you've ever, watched a spider on a web, and, the spider, feels the movement from all of the different parts of the web. That's how it knows where to go to get its food. And so we're all going to feel all of this. And then we have this reality of empathic response. And so who then are we going to be in the matter when we feel these things? And do we throw our hands up in the air and say, ah, or do we go hide in a cave? Or do we find our expression through writing a song or holding a door open for somebody? I think that's what we can be about now, where we can have some sense of choice is is in um is in our empathic response.
What I hear you pointing to is a couple of things. It's listening, because hiding in a hole could be the exact perfect thing, not just for you as an individuated being, but for the situation, like to step back and be in a, let's call it contemplative place, or where you personally have to restore, or just you're meditating to send the good vibes out or something. I'm doing that clumsily. But it could also be a life defeating thing. Like, it's so fascinating. The same action could be very life enhancing to the whole and very life defeating. So there's no rules. And except things like, if it's life enhancing, your system will calm. If it's life defeating, it probably won't, because you'll be in, I was just in this the other night. Oh my gosh, this is going on. Should I do this? Should I do that? What about this? What about that? And I was all stirred up until something coalesced, and I knew what was mine to do and be in this segment of time. And I was calm. Doesn't mean I wasn't nervous or scared, because it's different than what I expected to experience as resolution of something. It didn't seem easy, but my system was calm. And removing from right, wrong, good, bad. Like, I didn't measure up to something. I was, interpreting myself as right, wrong, good, bad, or the situation I was responding to, the for or against. Because I can imagine a lot of surprising, unexpected scenarios coming up. I mean, it's life. It's, never mind that, I got reminded of that. A psychiatrist named Gabor Mate. I'm sorry that I never really say his name beautifully. Was pointing out to some people who were very inflamed about the some of the events of that moment that are occurring between Israel and Palestine. And I don't even know which side was that he was responding to, but they were calling the other side names, and they're monsters, they're animals, all this. And he said, You're being," basically, he said, "You're being way too narrow." You, the, he wasn't saying this has been going on for a very, very long time, centuries, as an excuse, he said, you're coming into it with a certain interpretation that's too limited, too based in good, bad, right, wrong, whatever. And we have lots of examples of that in all kinds of writings, like the Good Samaritan, where the one man of the correct status in life helped someone who was, basically an outcast of society. But his empathic response was to move with what was life enhancing and help that man. So it is complex. It is complex. And getting beyond our good, bad, right, wrong, for and against indoctrination is a key aspect. And I think we're at time. Oops, we're over.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, people. This is a really important phenomenon of existence that's rising to be included.
Out past the field of all right and or out past all right and wrongdoing is a field. And we'll meet you there.
Mm-hmm.
Join
Yes.
us next
In
week.
this in this beautiful spectrum of human being. Yeah. Yes. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much. And you have the host capacity, Janice, right? You know how to, or do I? Oy vey. Okay. Well, thank you, everyone. We'll see you next time.